Hey, welcome everybody to ASK's webinar today, how to use technology and social media to build brand awareness. I'm Mike Maddox, CEO of ASK, and Victoria Evans is with me, our marketing expert, and she is going to join me in the presentation. We're going to give it just a few more minutes, maybe a minute or two, for the last couple folks to join in. So I'm going to go on mute for just a minute, and then we will go ahead and get started. I'll go over the logistics and the some of the housekeeping things for the webinar, and then we'll go get right into it. So thank you again for joining, and we'll be right back. Okay, it's Mike Maddox again, and I've got about 1:02, so we're going to go ahead and get rolling. We may have others joining us as we get into the presentation, but let me start by just introducing myself again. I'm the CEO of ASK, managed IT, managed security firm based in Lansing, Michigan, with customers all over the state. And with me is Victoria Evans. Victoria is our marketing expert from Elevate Marketing Company. And Victoria and I will be going through this presentation together. We will have time at the end for questions and answers. You can submit your questions using the chat function within Teams. So please leave your questions in chat, and at the end we will go to those questions and try to answer them as best as we can. If there's any that we can't get to, we will try to get back to you after the session. So if you want to put your name and email address in, we can have a way of contacting you or phone number. And with that, we're going to get started. The title today and the subject is how to use technology and social media in particular to build brand awareness. This is part of what ASK is calling their Business Fundamentals series, which is in this world that we're living in now. It's been critically important that all business leaders get back to some basic fundamentals, and the three components that we focus on in the campaign business fundamentals are efficiency with cash, ROI, expense management. That's the first one. The second one is productivity through use of technology. And then the third one is how do you grow your business in an economic downturn with economic headwinds and uncertainty. And that's the topic that we're focused on today. So with that, we'll get right into the presentation. Victoria, I believe you're controlling the slide, so I'll let you advance us. The first part of this is looking at traditional marketing versus digital marketing. And Victoria, as you look at the difference between the two and compare and contrast traditional marketing methods versus digital marketing, give us some examples of what's the difference between the two, and how do you define that?
You can see on the screen, their traditional marketing is your billboards, your signage, your TV ads and newspaper ads, print ads, radio ads, direct mailing, telemarketing, anything that was available, we'll say pre-1995. Digital marketing is this new era of advertising. So you've got your social media content, your websites, your email campaigns, and search engine optimization and marketing, your pay-per-click ads, your affiliate and influencer marketing. So you see there's a lot of options for both the traditional and the digital, but there's also a gray area that I think a lot of people forget. So is TV considered digital now? Because a lot of the TV advertising is actually online for streaming services. And like radio, we think of, normal broadcast radio, but what about places like Spotify or Pandora that are streaming radio services? Where do those actually fall? So there's a lot of gray area, but they actually work really well hand in hand. So as you guys can see, the average American is exposed to 4,000 to 10,000 advertisements daily. And while that is a really huge window, there are a lot of factors that play into that as far as where you live, what does your daily commute look like, what does your day-to-day life look like, because a lot of those ads are digital ads.
Yeah, absolutely. So while there's some gray area, there's differences too. And we're seeing a lot of prevalence on the digital side, which we'll talk more about as we get into the presentation. I think, Victoria, if you go to the next slide. So just give it a minute to populate. And just by reminder, if you do have questions as we go through the presentation, please put those in the question section or the chat function of the Teams event, and we will get to those at the end. So with those differences, let's talk, Victoria, about what are some of the pros and cons of each, because as a business owner, ASK and many business owners look at this. Yeah, I'm not ready to abandon traditional marketing. I think there's a place for it, and I'm curious as to your take on that, and how do you evaluate the pluses and minuses between investing your dollars in traditional billboards, radio ads, things of that nature versus digital, Facebook advertising, LinkedIn, search engine optimization, the things that we'll talk about in this presentation. How do you evaluate that?
So there's two big determining factors. One is your objective. If you're strictly going for brand awareness, a lot of traditional marketing tactics will work really well for you. Billboards are great for brand awareness. They're big, they're bold, they're simple, and they're going to reach a lot of people. But if you're wanting to actually drive sales, if you're wanting to fill your funnel and move people down your sales process, digital marketing holds a lot more power with that. So it depends a lot on what your objective is. And the other thing that we really, really have to consider is who you're trying to reach. Because if your target market are people who religiously read the newspaper every morning over their cup of coffee, Facebook advertising might not be the best place for you. But at the same time, if you're trying to reach a millennial, I don't know any millennials that actually have a newspaper subscription anymore. So newspaper ads are not going to be the place that you're going to want to advertise there. So it's really looking at what is your objective and what is your audience. And then the other big factor that we do need to take into account is how much metrics and the ability to measure results matters. So we can get estimates of how many people see a billboard. We can get estimates of how many people actually saw your ad in the newspaper and it didn't just sit in their driveway for 4 days. But you're not going to be able to get exact numbers. Whereas with digital advertising, the metrics that we are able to receive and track users through our sales process is incredible. So, if you're really wanting to get a really good inside look at what your marketing is doing, digital's the way to go.
And not to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but with digital, if I'm not mistaken, you can track those metrics down to the individual, right? You're able to do some determination as to who is seeing your ads. Yeah, and demographics for certain you can see.
Yeah.
Which is sometimes really hard to do in traditional. Okay, we can move on to the next slide. So why bother with social media? So, I think it's a question that is in the mind of a lot of business owners and business executives is, yeah, I get it. We have a LinkedIn site, we have a Facebook site, we post, we put things up there. But, when I say bother, why bother with it? Why put time, energy, and strategy into a social media campaign or into social media strategic efforts? How do you respond to that?
So a lot of this, social media is not necessarily about selling as much as it is just establishing your brand, your reputation, and your brand awareness. 77% of B2B purchasers won't speak to a salesperson until they've done their own research. And looking through these statistics, 55% of those buyers are using social media. So half of the people that you're trying to sell to are going to go check out your social media before they're going to make a purchase decision. It's, people are not just relying on Google anymore. They're not just relying on, word of mouth. They're actually, they're doing their own research. They're looking at their reviews. They're looking at what your company looks like online, because that's the easiest way to do so without having an actual engagement. I think that modern culture has made people kind of avoid actual conversation and connection because we can do so much online. But we have to harness that power and use it for our advantage rather than, try and force their hand to force them to have a conversation with us. Because if we can put the tools in their hands that say, look, this is who we are, this is what we do, give them as much as we can online, including on social media, that's going to give us the best shot to make a sale.
Yeah. So, and I think it comes back to, it's more than just, you got to look at your industry, your target. And I know you're going to talk about this, but, for a company like ours, like ASK being an IT consulting company, I mean, no potential client is going to make a decision on their IT infrastructure or management of their infrastructure or their cybersecurity based on a Facebook ad, right?
Right.
But they are going to gain an appreciation for how well established our company is, for what our reputation is, what other clients say about us, about our capabilities, and they're going to do that research, as your statistics show. Correct?
Right. Correct. And being selective with what we're sharing, like I said, it's social media isn't about the sale. It's about the reputation and about building those relationships and connecting and, showing the good that your company does. Hands down for ASK, our top content is community involvement projects. So, sharing about our ASK Cares program and showcasing real faces of real employees with either testimonials or quotes from those employees. So really giving people a picture of who ASK is and not just what we do has been the best strategy for ASK.
Got it. Okay, move on to the next slide. And I do see some people are starting to put some questions in chat, which is awesome. Continue to do that. We are going to get to those. We have plenty of time at the end of the session to get to your questions, which is the most important part of any webinar. And our next slide talks about why social media channels are right for me, or which social media channels are right for me. So when you look at the world of digital, Victoria, and social media specifically, it gets a little confusing. I know for me at least it does. I mean, there's Facebook, there's Instagram, there's LinkedIn, there's all kinds of other social media platforms as well. But those are probably the big three, along with Twitter. And
Yep.
How do you know where to invest your time and energy? If you've made the decision that a social media strategy is the right one to grow your business and to gain brand reputation and to support your sales and marketing and funnel building efforts, how do you differentiate between the three? How do you make a decision of where to put the most eggs in which basket?
Right. So one of the biggest questions that we get at Elevate is, should my business be on all of the social media channels? And that is a very loaded question. Yes, your business should have all of the social media channels that it can claimed. No, you should not pour all of your eggs into all of the baskets. It's important to pay attention to what is working and what is not. So why it's important to have it claimed, you don't want somebody else claiming your profile, your account, and then pretending to be you, or having a competitor claim your account and having you not have access to the same usernames or profile itself. It stinks that that's a very real reality in the world that we're in, but it is. There's a lot of fraud that happens on the internet, so making sure that those are claimed is really important. But to use ASK as an example again, we do have a Twitter account. We use it very sparingly. It's not something that I think works well for our business structure. And like you said, no CEO is going to make a huge business decision based off of a Facebook ad, and they're certainly not going to do that off of a tweet. So While we have our Twitter claimed, we do put information out like the company announcements, awards that we receive, and things like that. We do have some presence, but we're not investing a lot of time or money into that because it's not a worthwhile channel for us. So if you don't know which channels are working well for your business, I would say, start putting together some content for all of them. Take 90 days, really, really dig into the analytics and see, what's driving link clicks, what's driving those phone calls, what's driving, website traffic, and how much time are each of these people spending on your website and spending engaging with your business. Facebook is very, very popular for business. Simply because that's where so many people spend a lot of time. There's a lot wider demographic there. And there's a lot of different tools that Facebook has given businesses to use. So community groups has been a big, big thing this year. We always say pay attention to what Facebook is advertising because they're telling you what they want you to do. So this year, Facebook has been running a lot of TV commercials about groups. So that is a big billboard for business owners to say, okay, we should utilize a group. So, we can help you brainstorm how to make a group an effective, method of communication and something that you can keep alive and, have it be worth your time. 19.7% of all digital ad spend is on Facebook. That's a fifth of all digital ad spend. So that's including Google, that's including LinkedIn, that's including all of these different audience network ads. A fifth of it is on Facebook. So that tells you that a lot of people see value in what Facebook is doing. Instagram is typically the younger generation. More than half of them are under 20 or under 35. So on Instagram, you're going to see a lot more of influencer marketing. So, brand reps and, celebrities and things endorsing products and companies. But you will see a lot of local businesses that'll utilize that for people to check in and people to, share their stories and things like that. So Instagram historically is not great for B2B business, but it can hold a lot of power for B2C. And then LinkedIn is a really, really good place for B2B to live. Not necessarily for advertising. Again, that really depends on your industry. But the networking power of LinkedIn, I think a lot of people underestimate because they don't know how to use it. And they assume that if they aren't using it very much, then others aren't either. But it is a very quickly growing network still, even though it's, it doesn't have a lot of buzz around it because it's not exciting and new. It's still growing. People are using it more, especially now with everybody working remotely. Social media has become a really, really big place for connecting.
Yeah, and I think when you look at those three too, is it true to say, my impression being that LinkedIn, great place for executive to executive kind of networking, connecting, getting to know each other, leveraging the power of each other's networks to do more business or to collaborate or even partner on things with people that but you don't know extremely well. Whereas Facebook tends to be, at least it feels to me, more like a place where somebody fairly well to connect with them or be friends with them on Facebook. So if you're looking just from a networking perspective, your network on LinkedIn is going to be more professional. On Facebook, it's going to be more personal. And they do cross over, right? Your LinkedIn connections will be your Facebook connections sometimes.
Yeah.
But they're also different.
Yeah. And vice versa too. I've connected with people on LinkedIn that I followed their Facebook pages and engaged with them. They're, industry professionals that I admire, different companies that we've worked with or, that are industry leaders, and engaging with them on their Facebook page for, 6 months or a year. We now can, connect with them on LinkedIn and have personal conversations with them.
Okay, and go to the next slide. We covered that. Talking about which social media channel is right for me. If you've decided, you're a business, you're in marketing for a business, or you're a business owner, small business owner trying to move to the next step, and you've decided, hey, a strong digital strategy is something that I need to implement. And that's probably true for most businesses, especially B2B. how do you go about implementing that strategy? What does it look like? Give us a feel for where you start and how you go about it.
So one of my favorite phrases is a good digital strategy looks like an absolute disaster. So on the right side of the slide, you can see a touch point map. This is available for download with a lot more information on our business fundamentals page. It's got a key and everything to it that will help make a little bit more sense to you. But this touchpoint map is a really, really high level look at what digital marketing looks like. So you've got a user that if they find you on Google, then they go to your website. Well, your website traffic then gets remarketed to Facebook ads and YouTube ads and Google ads. And then when they click on that ad, then they get sent to a landing page where we can collect their email, and then they get into a drip campaign. But if they open enough emails, then we can have somebody call them and set up a meeting or face-to-face, a face-to-face conversation, send them like a swag bag or something like that. Once they get the swag bag, then they might go check us out on LinkedIn or send a connection there. So having all of these different channels intertwined is really what's going to make your digital strategy stronger. You want everything to be pretty cohesive. The other really big important part of that is what you're posting. So, having educational content, entertaining content, emotional content, you're not just posting, hey, look at, we sell IT, like we can do better than that. Keeping things educational, sharing tips and tricks, really connecting with your audience is what's going to help strengthen that digital strategy. And, keeping it authentic and engaging is so important because people see through the sales tactics and the gimmicks, and, you want to be genuine and helpful because people see through, anything that's not authentic, you can see through it. I think we are all conditioned enough now to see through sales gimmicks, and you have to be authentic. You have to be real and on social media.
I think, Victoria, that I'd be curious on your comment on this, but it seems to me that that's true not only for the content that you're putting out on your LinkedIn site or your Facebook page as a business, but that's true for individuals in the company as you reach out on those networks, especially on LinkedIn. You see it all the time where you get a LinkedIn connection request, you have a bunch of people in common, so you accept it. And then the first thing that happens is the person who made the request starts hitting you up with sales pitch after sales pitch after sales pitch. And that's really not authentic. That's not what people are looking for. And it's not effective, right? So if your purpose on connecting is to truly connect, to mutually benefit each other, to benefit from each other's networks, or to find ways to collaborate, or you're authentically interested in their business or some idea they're coming out with, or some emerging product or an article they posted, that's very apparent to people. People see through the fakeness really quickly. And so you have to be authentic and you have to be real. And from that, you generate business. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah. I think now more than ever, people are very, very on guard for the robo messages, the robo, drip campaigns and things like that. So having really authentic conversation and making sure that people know that you're not sending the same message to 25 different people, and don't send the same message to 25 different people. Having these individual one-on-one connections is really what is going to push both you as a professional, but also your company as a whole forward.
Yeah, it's helpful. Thank you. So if we look at the next slide, we get into what to publish and where. So there's a lot of content. You have to develop good, smart content. It has to be authentic. It has to be helpful. And we always say, start with how can I help when you're talking about marketing and advertising. And from there, build out your strategy. But once you've got that established, you've got to make the decision of where does it go? Do you put it on your website? Do you pump it out over social media? Do you send it out over email? Do you do all of the above? They're different platforms. So comment on how you go about making those decisions.
Yeah, so each channel needs to be evaluated on its own. We see a lot of businesses that they'll just take one piece of content and copy and paste. They'll have the same exact article on their website, and then they'll put it in an email, and then they'll put it on a Facebook post. And there's no changes. There's no thought behind it. It's just, I need to put this out in all of the places. And that's not good strategy. You need to look at each individual channel and think, who's seeing this? What are they going to do next? And how can I customize this content to make sure that it is the most effective for this channel? So, your website, that is something, this content should be evergreen. It should be stuff that's not time sensitive, I guess. We're not putting out happy holiday, Merry Christmas on the front page of your website. You might have a pop-up that says, hey, we're closed on, the 4th of July or something like that. But the content itself should be more long-term strategy, sharing about your business and what you do, who you are, obviously your contact information, that's a really important thing. But then also, humbly brag on yourself, share those rewards, those recognition, the testimonials, like what other people are saying. That adds a lot of social proof to your business. And then, sharing about events and special things that the business has coming up. That's good everywhere. Again, customize it to each channel, but those types of things that are announcements and exciting, those should be in all of the places. Social media is a lot more social. So, you can be a lot more relaxed on social media. I think that a lot of companies feel the need to have completely 100% polished, like 5-star content on every single post. But it's very interesting as a social media manager to look at the top posts. Like I said, for ASK, it's our community outreach things and our staff highlights. I don't think that we've ever posted a professionally taken photo of our community outreach anything. Every single one of them has been a phone photo. It's been somebody took a photo at a fundraiser, or we did a Earth Day walk last spring, and somebody just took a quick cell phone photo of us with all of the trash that we picked up in downtown Lansing, and that was one of the top posts for the entire year. It wasn't something that was staged. It wasn't something that we put a lot of thought behind. It was something that the several employees decided that they wanted to do something good for Earth Day, and we all took a group selfie because it was fun team bonding. And it did so well on social media because the followers got to see who we are as a company. They got to see real faces and see what we're doing for our community. That hits a lot of the things that I have in this category here is about your staff and the community involvement and company happenings, events. It hits on a lot of different places there. But not being afraid to have less than completely polished content is not a bad thing. Having that real raw engagement is what's going to really show the bones behind your business. Email is a very powerful tool still. I think that it gets written off because so many people just, oh, that's going to my other folder. Oh, that's going to spam. I'm not going to read this. But when it's done well, it can be so impactful. Having real conversations with people, again, is always key. But using email to be helpful, sharing those tips and tricks. Service offerings, I do think should be positioned in a helpful way and not a salesy way. You don't want to just send email after email of these are the things that we can do for you, please buy some. But positioning it, and here's the problem that we understand that you're having, here's what we can do to fix it. And then events, we send out emails for our webinars. We send out emails for any of like company happenings that we have, in the good days when we can all get together, having open houses and things like that, fundraisers, sending out emails for that is great because that allows people to very easily add things to their calendar. Company updates, again, awards, things like that are great for email. So there's a lot of different ways that you can use email, especially holiday messaging. If your business is closed, email is the way to go.
Yeah, so they are different, but the consistency between all three of them comes back to something you've been talking about on a number of slides now, which is being authentic and avoiding the temptation to be salesy, right? I mean,
Right.
ultimately we all want sales and we want new business, but avoiding that temptation to be over the top. Here's what we have, please buy it. It's
Right.
got these advantages, which doesn't take into account what the client's needs might be, or how you're adding value, or how you potentially could solve problems. You got to put thought into that first, right?
Right.
If we go on to the next slide, we're going to get into organic versus paid marketing, because this is interesting to me. To me, as a business owner, it always felt more legit to stay with organic. When you're talking about marketing or putting dollars behind a Facebook ad or a LinkedIn post or anything on social media. And, I've often said that, I think most people are like me when they do a Google search. They kind of ignore the paid returns that come up at the top, because we know that that people paid for those, and we're looking for the ones that come up organically. But I think that might be a little too simplistic. At least I've learned that it's a little too simplistic from you, because you've told me it's too simplistic. So why don't you get into that a little bit? How do you determine whether to go organic or paid, or what mix of each you might want to use?
Right. So it's funny that you say you ignore the paid Google searches, because that's exactly what I look at. I want to see who's actually willing to pay for my business. So with organic content, it really, 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 like, I will say it on every slide, probably, it has to be authentic, because people do see right through it. People are very conditioned now. They are recognizing advertising very easily. So our organic content has to be authentic and engaging. It can't be salesy. It should be helpful or entertaining. Keeping that organic content more about the people, you're going to get the buy-in there is going to be about your company, not about your services. With the exception to that is, for product marketing, organic can do a lot of good. That gets into like viral marketing. If you've got, I think yesterday Mike and I were chatting, and I said something about if you've got the latest like exercise equipment or something, and there's a lot of potential there to go viral organically, because if you've got people that are starting to use your product and they love it, and then they're sharing videos about it, and their friends, it's spider web. So their friends get it, and then their friends get it, and then you've got thousands of people that are all talking about your product. But for things like ASK's business, as much as I would absolutely love to have these raving fans that are having us go viral about our amazing IT management, if we're being really realistic, that's just not something that we see happening.
Yeah,
I would love to have that
solutions
happen.
and services are not likely to go viral.
Right.
If I've learned one lesson in my 30 years, that's it right there.
So that's where the paid marketing comes in. So we can do really amazing content organically. We're also facing the limitations of social media. Facebook will say that you'll never have to pay for Facebook, and that's true. There will always be a free version. But there are definitely a lot more limitations now than there used to be as far as reach goes. So that's where paid comes in. You're paying. Remarketing is the most powerful part of digital marketing. So you can't, unless if you're buying a whole series of 15 billboards on a highway, remarketing off of a billboard is pretty difficult. You can't, have somebody sitting up there with a camera taking a picture of every car that passes by and have them followed around to, serve them more signage. But with digital marketing, that's essentially what's happening. Having these codes installed on your website, and the Facebook pixel is such a powerful tool. So we can remarket people that haven't even gone to the website, but if they watch more than a few seconds of a video that we share, we can remarket them. And that's such a powerful tool, because it really does start to drive in on who's engaging with us, and we're able to reach those people in places that in traditional marketing you just can't reach them. So paid marketing also holds a lot more of a direct ask. So again, people are recognizing advertising, so it's getting the buy-in, getting the actual interest, asking for those email addresses, or giving away free content. The business fundamentals campaign While that's more of a grassroots and organic campaign for us, we're trying to get email addresses so we can have conversations with people and we can be transparent about that. That's part of good marketing, is being transparent, and we're going to give you some really incredible tools, but we'd also like to have a conversation with you. And I think that most people who are engaging with businesses nowadays have come to expect that. So there's no need to really beat around the bush with it. Paid also helps with maintaining that front of mind awareness. So if Facebook is limiting how far your organic content's going because it's not some fun exercise equipment that everybody wants to talk about, paid allows us to get in front of the people who already follow our page a lot more frequently. So maintaining that front of mind awareness and, keeping people like, oh yeah, I wonder what ASK is doing this month. So paid has a lot of really good resources for that, but organic still matters in a very big way.
Yeah, for sure. And the power of that remarketing is something that you can't understate. And I like how you put it, being totally transparent. That's the power of digital marketing, is the ability to know who's looking at what you're posting, how often they're looking at it, and to be able to send more content to them. And we all kind of get that, because if you go online and you Google best gas grill, you're going to see ads on gas grills for the next month or so, and you're going to probably get a few emails, and you're going to, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I'm getting content that I'm obviously interested in,
Right.
But being totally transparent as a marketer, that's part of the power behind it.
Yep. I hear people complain all the time about Facebook ads. They're too creepy. They know too much. They know too much. And personally, I would much rather see ads for the backpacks that I was looking at buying my kids for the school year than some random, I don't know, we'll stick with exercise equipment because I'm not going to use that right now. I'd rather see the ads that are relevant to me. So I personally am like, take my information, within reason, but take my information, take my browsing history, and use that to serve me ads that are actually relevant to me. And remind me that I actually probably should buy my kid the backpack, because that matters, and with, B2B businesses, if we've got a CEO that comes to our website, we can then serve them a Facebook ad, and, he might be scrolling Facebook, relax at the end of the day and say, oh, I remember I was going to email them earlier, but I got sidetracked. That's the power of that remarketing. There is that constant reminder that you looked at this once and you should look again.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, exercise equipment serves as a great place to store backpacks when the kids aren't using them, I've found. So
right.
That's one use.
Dual purpose.
And by the way, we skipped over this on the last slide. I don't want to go back, but just to reiterate, 48% of baby boomers are on social media, 78% of Gen X, and 90% of millennials. So this is the coming way to market, or it is not the coming way, it is the way to market. So that's important. Let's talk about individuals. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, a lot of times we hear like, well, my target audience isn't on, they're not spending time on social media. Like, that's for millennials. Well, you can see 48% is not, the majority, but that's a huge part of the baby boomer generation. And I think that gets written off a lot. And I can speak from personal experience with running ads for, dozens of different companies. Baby boomers are incredibly cheap to reach online because so many people write them off. They're not running ads to that demographic. So if that's your target demographic, you need to come talk to me about some Facebook ads, because it is so much cheaper to reach them there than anywhere else.
Absolutely. If we go up to the individual effort slide, I want to talk about this. This is something that we talk about internally at our company, beyond the marketing person, beyond the marketing company or the CEO, the owner, the decision maker, the sales development people who are focused on this strategy and getting content out that's relevant, that's real. What can the rest of the company do? What can individuals do to support a good marketing effort?
Yeah, so there's actually a term for this that's called employee evangelism. So that is getting your employees to talk highly of your company online, or just in general. But social media engagement on company content is absolutely priceless. If you've got 100 employees and every one of them, or even half of them, are going and they're engaging on your Facebook post, on your LinkedIn content, the more engagement that you have on your content, the farther that Facebook will push it organically, not costing you money. So encouraging your staff to, like your posts, comment on your posts, share with, their own little blurb. If, you're highlighting one of your teams that has, done something great recently, encourage the people to share that and say like, oh, it's been great to be recognized. This was such a fun project to work on. Sharing some personal testimony to, in addition to the company content, helps push your stuff so much farther. Also, spending the time to intentionally connect and have conversations with both clients and prospective clients. So that's something that we've worked on with, our leadership team, but the company as a whole too. If you're engaging with a client regularly, make sure that you're connected with them on LinkedIn. That's a really, really easy place to start, because that gives them the opportunity, as you're engaging with them, their connections are going to see that, when you're commenting on their content, and then they might see your profile and say, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about, so I'm going to go check out his profile. And then that gives you the opportunity to connect with more people. And again, it's spider webs. So engaging and having these intentional connections. I'm not a fan of the robots that are going to go connect with anybody that has two of the same people, in your second degree network. I'm not a big fan of that. I think that it's inauthentic, and it can be used well. We've tried them, and, it can be used properly, I guess, if you're following up in an authentic manner. But so many people have abused those that, it can kind of tarnish your reputation a little bit. But having these intentional conversations and being authentic, even in, your personal conversations and not just with your company's content as a whole, really helps. And then the really, really big thing that I can't stress enough, online reviews matter so much. This is something that we've actually seen with ASK just in the last week here. A company reached out to us because of our Google reviews. So it is not taboo to ask for reviews. I think a lot of people feel uncomfortable with it because it is a direct ask. But you frame it as a favor. Would you do me a favor? We're trying to build our Google reviews. Be transparent. Again, we're trying to build up our Google reviews. Would you mind, heading over to Facebook or Google and leave us a review, or Facebook and leave us a recommendation? If you're already getting positive feedback, encourage them to share that in places that the world can see it and not just your internal staff. It's, like I said, it's not taboo. I almost expect it, I think, now, and it's a lot more powerful coming from an actual person rather than a automated follow-up email. Like, yes, that is a great step to have in place, because sometimes people will click through on that, and they might be people that wouldn't have left you a Google review otherwise. But having a direct request from an employee is 1,000 times more effective. That's not an actual statistic, but it's incredibly more effective when it's actually coming from an individual. So if, someone from your team gets a compliment, encourage them, hey, would you mind leaving that on Google for us? We're really trying to build up our Google reviews because they matter so much more now. It's not taboo and people expect it.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I mean, most of us will go out online and at least do some basic research, which is typing into Google and seeing what other people are saying about the potential company you're looking to hire, whether it's somebody for a home or a partner in business. We want to know what others have experienced.
Right.
So they are important. Just to touch on another point you brought up, which is intentionally connecting. I mean, Outlook Office 365 has a great advantage of a LinkedIn connector, or an embedded LinkedIn tool. Allows you to very quickly click a button and find out if this person that just sent you an email is a connection on LinkedIn without actually leaving Outlook. I had that experience recently with a longtime client, executive at a longtime client, and I on a whim just clicked on that connect her and found out we weren't connected on LinkedIn. We connected, of course. And then I found out he was posting a lot of very relevant and interesting information on LinkedIn, which I got engaged in, again, in an authentic way. They were already a customer. I wasn't trying to curry favor with him. I was just interested in the stuff he was posting, made comments on it. Somebody else saw that, reached out to me to connect, another business executive from a non-client, and said, hey, those are really interesting comments. I'd like to meet you. And we'd set up a digital meeting. And in today's world, that's what we do now, is Zoom meetings or Teams meetings. Got to know each other, and they became a potential client just based on that interaction. I mean, but it started with being authentic and by reaching out and connecting to people. If we go to the next slide. All right, so search engine optimization, SEO is the acronym for it. And search engine management. Let's talk about the difference between those. And all of these mediums we're talking about ultimately feed into both. But why don't you kind of set the stage for us as to what they are and what the differences are, and what we need to know about them.
Yeah, so search engines obviously play a huge role in the digital marketing game. A lot of the younger generation uses social media almost as a search engine, but pretty much everyone is using some, whether it's Google or Yahoo or Bing or, any of these other search engines. So search engine optimization is what you're doing on the back end, your website, the blogging, linking to, getting those inbound links, those outbound links, keyword utilization, these are all buzz terms, but it's all of the things that you're doing on your end that's free to help make the search engines happy, so keeping your information updated, putting out good content, all of those types of things, getting your Google reviews, help with your search engine optimization. And everything plays a part into that. The more Google reviews that you have, the more legitimate Google will think your business is. And if it thinks your business is more legitimate, it's going to push it up in the search engine rankings. If your website is 3 pages that each have 15 words on it, that doesn't make Google happy, because they can see, someone's going to go to your website. They're not going to learn anything from going to your website. If you only have 15 words on a page and you only have 3 pages on your website, Google recognizes that. So it's not going to show you as much. But if you have this well-rounded, robust website with a lot of good content on it, that's going to push that up more. So that's the organic side of it. And then, as we really briefly touched on earlier, the SEM, the search engine marketing, that's the paid stuff. That's those first couple listings on Google. Those are, there's remarketing ads and things like that within the Google results. They can be a lot more costly than social media, but it's for a reason. So when you're scrolling through Facebook, you're probably not looking for IT solutions as much as I would love for you to be looking for IT solutions. That's probably not what you're doing on Facebook. But if you Google managed IT in Lansing, there's a pretty solid chance that you're looking for managed IT in Lansing. So because the intent is so much higher in search engines, you're going to pay more. And it's a double-edged sword. It stinks that you're paying more, but the quality of that click is going to be so much more qualified because the intention is already there. So that is a really huge part of search engine marketing, is understanding that the intent is a lot higher there than what it is on social media advertising. People are looking for something specific on, search engines, like when they're searching for things. Paid search is the winner in that sense, because, Mike said, he kind of avoids those advertisements, but that helps reflect on your SEO too. The more clicks that you're getting off of those paid ads. So if Mike is avoiding them, where I look for them, I want to see who is advertising, who's willing to spend money to get my business. And maybe that's the marketer mind in me, but, I'm clicking on those ads, and a lot of people that are they're looking for the first thing that pops up, that's the lazy American way, I guess. they're just looking for the first thing that pops up. Well, then they're going to go to your website, and that increased website traffic continues to support your SEO. So they're very closely related, and both matter. It's just a matter of figuring out how much do you invest, how much are you willing to invest in that social or search engine marketing, while still making sure that your SEO is intact too. Oh, Mike, you're muted.
Right. One last point on this I was going to make is, it's not like the old days of Google's algorithm where you could just stuff keywords out there, right? I mean, today it's about content. It's got to be frequent. It's got to be, legitimate, and it's got to be varied in different places. Right. And they all work together into the algorithm, which is a mystery, but it's, we know enough about it to know that you've got to do all of it, and you've got to do it strategically and frequently and manage it in order to be on that first page. Right. So there's no shortcuts anymore, right? There's
not. And I mean, Google especially, I mean, other search engines are too, but with Google being the big front runner, they are really penalizing people for trying to use those shortcuts. So if your website hasn't been updated in the last even 5 years, you need to go in and you need to make sure that you don't have keywords loaded somewhere, because that's something that was very, very common when search engines really started to grow in popularity. Companies would go in and they'd put white text on the bottom of their website, and to the average user, that's just going to look like a spacer. But when Google or other search engines are calling your website, they're getting all of these different keywords that we want to show up for. And that's what was, for a long time, that was the driver for, good search ranking. But then they caught on to that, and, they caught on to like cheating the system in a sense. So now it's that quality content. It's, there's a lot of other factors. A huge factor is mobile friendliness. So because so much of web traffic is on a phone now, if your website is not mobile friendly, you are not 100%. I would be willing to bet you, you're not going to show up on the front page of Google if your website is not Google friendly or mobile friendly.
Mobile friendly, right. Okay, let's go to the next slide, the final slide before questions, and it's key takeaways. So I'm going to go over what the takeaways are, I think, and I know what they are because they're right here in bullet form for me to read, but every business should have some level of presence on social media. I think that's something we all understand today, that you need some level. And so it's like any other area of your business. You need to put strategic thought behind it, and you need to look at your target market, look at the demographics, look at who you're trying to reach, look at your product or service, and how you can best reach that target market and which of the mediums to use. But it's got to be strategic. Every business should have a strong modern website, and that's what you were just talking about, that plays nice with search engines. If it hasn't been updated in years, it'd be a good time to update it. Make sure that it's mobile friendly. Make sure that the old keywords aren't stuffed in there, because that will penalize you. And every business should be working with someone whose job it is to manage the company's digital presence. It's not a set it and forget it environment. You really need constant oversight and management, which is why we use the incredible services from Elevate at ASK to do that for us. Other companies can do it in-house, or it can be a hybrid kind of thing where your in-house marketing team does that with a qualified marketing firm, but somebody has to be responsible for day-to-day management of your social platform and your strategy. Anything I left out?
I think that pretty well sums it up.
So we've got one question that was posted, and again, if you have questions, please put them into the conversation section of the live event. And they will pop up, and we will address them. But one question did come up early on, Victoria, and the question was posted as follows: if your target audience, this is a great question, if your target audience is a mid-sized manufacturing plant manager, so you're selling B2B and you're trying to reach the mid-sized a company's plant manager, what's the medium that's going to be most effective for them?
I would say LinkedIn connection is a really good place to start. If you can find out who that person is, which that in itself is a whole nother discussion. We could do a whole webinar on that. Finding out who that person is and then trying to connect with them on LinkedIn in a personal manner. Email also is a great way. If you can get like allow, having them allow you to add them to a email drip campaign so they can get to know your business. That should come after a personal conversation. But email would be a really great way to do that. I'm a big fan of email for B2B. But then getting those remarketing touches in there. So if you know that they've gone to your website, sharing some good, more like company culture type videos for remarketing is a really powerful tool for B2B. ASK has an actual documentary about like the story of ASK and how it's come to be what it is now. If you know people have been on your website and they're checking you out to see who you are, what you're about, these company culture type remarketing ads can be really, really powerful. But yeah, so LinkedIn content, remarketing ads, and email, I think would be my biggest suggestion for that.
Great question. If you have other questions in the future after we get off the call here, please don't hesitate to get a hold of us. If you go to the next slide, Victoria, it'll give you 2 websites which you can screenshot or write down, or if you don't want to do that, just go to justask.net and you can find both business fundamentals and another sub-site that's around cybersecurity. But the stuff we're talking about today is on the business fundamentals landing site. You'll find that on our main website. And if you have questions for Victoria in particular, Victoria, how would they reach you at Elevate Marketing?
So if you sign up or if you head to the Business Fundamentals website that's on the screen now, you can book a consult, or you can head to elevatemarketingco.com and fill out a contact form there, and we can set up a conversation.
For the grow your business part of business fundamentals, and for the other 2 elements, cash flow and expense management being the first, and the second is productivity, that site is loaded with free tools and resources that are available to anyone. Fill out the form, you get them, and you can take advantage of that. It also has ways to contact us if you have questions, you just want to talk, or if you want to connect on LinkedIn, you can do that as well. Thanks everybody for your time today. Thanks Victoria for your expertise.
Thank you.
Have a great afternoon, everybody.